writers didn't have motive to invent something like that. So my view is that Jesus was crucified, but he survived. And atheists and Christians can't disprove my view because my view is a supernatural or theological view. Why can't God keep Jesus alive? That's certainly possible. Given my theological view. So I think Christians are inconsistent when they criticize the Swoon theory, or the theory that Jesus was crucified and he survived. Yeah, Dave, if you wanna respond, or if you want me to keep going.
Yeah, a couple of issues there. So I'll go ahead and respond to those those points you just made, and then I'd like to bring up the passages, but just because there will be people. There are always people who are kind of new to this, so they don't understand what we're talking about. We're talking about Surah 4, verse 157. So we'll actually pull the verses up on the screen, and so we can we can break down what we mean here. So as far as now, let me say here at the beginning, as far as Etishem saying that we believe in the supernatural, so we believe that God could miraculously keep someone alive, even a victim of crucifixion. Absolutely, totally agree with him on that. God could have someone go through 1,000 crucifixions and survive. We're talking about God here. Of course, God could do that. The question is, why would we believe something like that? Why would we believe that God had Jesus crucified, or allowed him to be crucified, but then miraculously sustained him throughout that so that he actually survived? So
if I can interject just for one quick second. If you read the Old Testament, like when I read the Bible, people survived, or God saved people. God saved Jonah, and I know Christians have responded to the sign of Jonah argument, but God, saved Jonah. God, according to the Bible, Yahweh Elohim, whatever God's name is, he saved Enoch, or he raised Enoch to himself. Elijah was saved. So these people were saved. So why can't the same thing be done with Jesus? Like the New Testament uses the Old Testament, to prove various things Jesus said, et cetera, et cetera. So that's just my view, is that why can't God do the same for Jesus?
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, again, no disagreement between us there. As far as if we're talking about the supernatural, yes, Elvis could still be alive, preserved somewhere by God. Tupac could still be alive, preserved somewhere by God. All these things are eminently possible. The question is, why would we believe them? So if someone wanted to say, I believe that Tupac is still alive, not just that it was some show or something like this, or some conspiracy, but that actually, nope, guys unloaded bullets into him, and then God miraculously sustained him, and then kept him alive afterwards. Of course, God could do that. The question is, should we actually believe that God did do that? So anyway, on the issue of being inconsistent.
What's funny? That Tupac has an album called Resurrection.
Yeah, there's a funny Chappelle skit about Tupac. You should check out. Yeah.
I love it.
I wrote the song a long time ago. Yeah, that's good. Anyway, so as far as citing atheists, that's not the issue on citing atheists and Jewish scholars and so on. Of course, we have disagreements, but that's kind of the point. It's Christian scholars and Jewish scholars would disagree a lot on the life of Jesus. Christians and atheists would disagree a lot when it comes to the life of Jesus. But everyone across the board agrees that he died by crucifixion. And so it's a rare area where people agree. And so the point is not citing an atheist and therefore the atheist is right. I think the atheists are wrong about lots and lots of things, really, really important things. The point is that people who ordinarily disagree with us on all of these big issues, on this issue, agree. And you're pointing out that, well, this is 2,000 years ago. And of course, if someone is crucified, the atheist is not going to assume that that God is going to miraculously keep that person alive. You're right. That option wouldn't be open to them, just as Jesus rising from the dead, as Christians believe, would not be open to the atheist. So you and I, Etishem, are in agreement that we we sort of have a belief about what happened that is miraculous that atheists are going to object to. And yet, if there just weren't any evidence for Jesus' crucifixion, the atheists would not be agreeing with us and saying it's an indisputable fact. They'd say, how do we know what happened? It was a long time ago. We have no idea what happened. So anyway, the point is there's something here that is even convincing critical scholars like Bart Ehrman and so on that this is a fact of history. The Jesus seminar, they go kind of saying by saying and pick and choose what they believe, but they agree on this issue. And so it's just an interesting fact that people agree on this. As far as the criterion of embarrassment, that's just a situation of how do we account for the early belief in Jesus' death arising even among his followers, because his followers go to their horrible bloody deaths claiming that he died on the cross and rose from the dead.
If
So
I can interject.
yeah, let me finish the point and then you can jump in. So the idea is these guys are first century Jews. First century Jews didn't really have a concept that the Messiah is going to come and die. That's why it kind of catches people off guard when Jesus dies. They didn't have really a concept of a dying Messiah, dying and rising Messiah. And so if you were a first century Jew and you wanted to come up with a story, that's the point of the principle of embarrassment. If you're going to invent something, you're going to invent something that helps your case. If you're a first century Jew trying to convince other first century Jews that Jesus is the Messiah, saying he died is not going to help your case. So why would you then invent it? It sounded like you were saying, well, people can sort of spread malicious stories about a person, like about Muhammad or about Jesus afterwards. But this isn't something that's coming along from some critics of Jesus later. I mean, of course, critics agree that he died. They would throw that in Christians' face. Come on, he's the Messiah. The guy got crucified. But that's the point. Everyone's agreeing. It's the Christians saying he was crucified, and there's a point to it. And there's the critics saying he was crucified, and this exposes him. What the underlying agreement among everyone is that he was crucified. So if he wasn't crucified, if Jesus didn't die by crucifixion, and the critics were to say, ha, 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 he got crucified, and he hadn't, the response of Jesus' followers and people who believed in Jesus would have been, what are you talking about? He wasn't crucified. Or, yeah, he was crucified, but he was still around later. He survived it. And this shows that God was actually protecting him. That would have been a miraculous claim too. Saying that he miraculously survived this would have been a miracle claim too. So the point is, when you look at the evidence, just as far as what people are saying and what people are believing during that time, the critics of Christianity and the proponents of Christianity, and you say, how did these people come to these views? Well, a Jesus who didn't die on the cross kind of doesn't explain how these people came to believe these things. If there were, let me clarify that just to go along with what you were saying. If we wanted to say that Jesus was crucified but didn't die from the crucifixion, he was crucified but he didn't die, he survived by divine help. I think the only way to make sense of the evidence is even Jesus' own followers thought that he died, so God saved him, God miraculously saved him, but even Jesus' own followers were convinced that he died. And so it was kind of a secret until it would come along later. That's the only way that I could actually account for the evidence. And this is going to eventually lead into the questions about the character of God. If God is doing these things that are misleading all these people and leading all these people astray, and no one has any idea what happened, and then we get down to the present, and billions of people are convinced that Jesus died on the cross because Allah just didn't clarify what he was doing, we're going to have some issues there. But what are your thoughts on all this? Wait, one second, because we are getting super chats. Let me just read these real quick, and then